Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max have a lot of similarities this year. They're Apple's latest flagship device, however there are some things to think about when you're trying to decide which one would be best for you. So I thought we'd go over 5 things to consider when buying a new iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 15 Pro Max. And the first thing is price. The price varies by just $100 between both devices, depending on which storage option you go for. So if we take a look at the overall price, you'll see here as we scroll down on Apple's website, they start at $999 for the Pro device. However, that only gives you 128 gigs of storage. But with the Pro Max this year, Apple is not offering 128 gigabytes. They're offering at $256 to start. So it's basically the same price as last year, $1199 in the US for $256. When you compare that with the 15 Pro, it's $100 more for each size. Now, I would probably opt for the 256 or 512 option if you're not planning to use a ton of ProRes video. If you're planning to record ProRes video all the time, I would opt for 1 terabyte. Most people, though, will be happy with 256. I would not go with 128, especially when you have ProRes video, as it limits sort of what you can do with it. You just don't have enough storage for ProRes video. So there is that $100 difference depending on the option. That's one consideration. But again, for storage, I would go for 256 or above. Now, as far as the next thing, the size and weight, of course, are an obvious factor. They're definitely different in size, as the 15 Pro is slightly smaller, but it's even smaller than last year's phone. Both of them are slightly narrower than the 14 Pro and Pro Max and slightly shorter. So that's a little bit nicer, and they're also lighter than we've had with iPhones, especially the Pro Max model, since the iPhone XS Max. So they come in at 6.60 ounces for the 15 Pro, or 187 grams, or 7.81 ounces, or 221 grams for the 15 Pro Max. So if the 14 Pro Max was a little too heavy, but you wanted to go with the larger phone, this phone may be a little bit better for you. But you also want to consider maybe if you add a case to it, that's going to make it a little bit larger. Add a screen protector, it will be a little bit heavier if it's glass or plastic. I'll link some options in the description for you, though. I actually have a screen protector on this phone that I really like a lot. Now, of course, the screen size is part of that size and weight factor, and we have a 6.1-inch display and a 6.7-inch display. The bezels are a little bit narrower this year, so that's a little bit nice, which actually adds to that thinness or narrowness of the phones compared to last year's models. But if the screen size doesn't matter too much, and you want more of that portability and the ability to be able to use it with one hand, I would opt for the 15 Pro. I've been using this to review it since I used the 15 Pro Max last week to review this, and it's really nice to be able to just use one hand to do most tasks. So it's very nice to be able to do that. Not everyone will be able to, but this is definitely a much smaller phone. With the 15 Pro Max, you often have to use 2 hands, maybe to type or sort of access different things across the screen, or maybe use reachability as you can pull down the screen. But most of the time, you can't really reach everything with just one hand without moving the phone around. So if you want that one-handed use, I would consider the 15 Pro. If you don't care about that, well then there's the 15 Pro Max. Also, the screens are identical in every way other than their actual size. So you have the same resolution, brightness, and everything else. So there's no compromises there. Now the cameras are slightly different this year. So with the cameras, what we have is the same cameras for the left side. So we have a 48 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, but we have 2 different optical zoom lenses this year. If you use a lot of zoom photos, this could make a difference for you. So on the left here with the 15 Pro, we have a 3 times optical zoom. On the 15 Pro Max, we have a 5 times optical zoom thanks to a new prism setup that goes to a sensor that's actually stabilized. So I thought what we'd do is actually compare some of the photos between both of these. What I'll do is zoom into 3 times on both phones to show you what it looks like, because we have the telephoto here on the 15 Pro. When we're at 3 times, it's using that. But instead on the 15 Pro Max, it's going to use the main sensor and just zoom into it. With the 15 Pro Max's 5 times telephoto, it's going to switch to this mode where we have 5 times optical up to 25 times with digital. On the 15 Pro, we can go 3 times optical up to 15 times digital. So there are differences there. I'll equal them out just to show you what they look like, and then I'll post them on Discord, where I have my server linked in the description, if you want to see the full resolution photos. So be sure to check that out if you want to do that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of those photos. Now, the final thing to consider is the battery life. Battery is going to be very different on both phones. The 15 Pro has a 3,274 milliamp hour battery, which Apple says is good for 23 hours of video playback. The 15 Pro Max is a 4,441 milliamp hour battery that Apple says is good for 29 hours of playback. Now, in real-world use, you're not just playing video all day, but I did notice a couple-hour difference. And I can show you that as I've been testing the 15 Pro here with this natural titanium color. And I also have a 15 Pro Max in blue titanium. I used this for a week. Now I'm using the 15 Pro just to test them. But if we go into settings, then we scroll down, we go to battery. Under battery, we'll go to the last 4 days. You can see here, and the last 10 days on the other device. So you can see the battery life on the 15 Pro Max, 4 hours and 30 minutes, and I used about 75% of my battery, or 65%. So I had about 7 hours of screen on time. Today, I used this entirely today down to 100% and only had 3 hours and 3 minutes of screen active time. Now, arguably, I do have Safari using a lot of the power for some reason, but either way, they're both set up identical. They're identical in every way with every app, every setting, and everything else. So I've been using them full time, like I said, and it varies from day to day. But basically, if you take a look at this, I'm getting about a 2 to 3 hour difference. So based on that, if you use a lot of power, you're going to have to charge the 15 Pro multiple times per day. You can expect about 5.5 to 6.5 hours of screen on time with the 15 Pro. With the 15 Pro Max, most people are getting about 8 to 10 hours of screen on time. So it really depends on how you're using it, but you can definitely expect a difference. And if you're a really light user, the 15 Pro Max may get you through 2 days. It just depends on how you use it. Also, of course, if you wanted to see the two colors side by side, here's blue titanium and natural titanium. The other black and white titanium are very familiar colors, but I really like the blue myself. I like both of them, but I think I opt for the blue, but of course that's up to your own preference, and that's going to really be determined on what you like best. Now, if you're trying to decide between the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max, it comes down to what matters most to you. If you need the best battery, the obvious choice is the 15 Pro Max. If you use the telephoto zoom lens a lot and you zoom in pretty far, well, the 15 Pro Max, again, is the one you want, or if you want the larger screen size. However, if you want portable, something that you don't have that is big, that's easier to handle, with maybe just using one hand to type or just get to your apps, of course, you want the 15 Pro. There's also the 15 as well if you don't care about all the Pro features, but everything between the two is identical other than what I've already mentioned with the price. The overall size and weight, camera, and battery. Durability should be the same. Colors are the same. And so hopefully that helped you decide what would work best for you. Let me know which one you picked in the comments below. If you're sticking with your older phone, I'd love to hear from you there as well. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.